Gerry Ryan, the Ryan Line on 2FM, Ireland's number one.
Paul, good morning to you.
Morning, Gerry. Lovely to speak to you.
Likewise, welcome. How are you?
Not too bad at all. You all set for the big day, yeah?
Am I all set for the big day? Well, we're getting there. Actually, that reminds me, I better go and make sure I've got my turkey organised today.
Right,
Thanks for bringing that up. I got to say, actually, the missus said to me the other day, she said, the turkey, you've organised the turkey, have you? I went, oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm one of these lucky men who doesn't have to organise anything.
Why?
Oh, the missus does all that for me. My
Why?
wife, Joan.
She does everything for you, does she?
Everything for me, I have to say now. I'm like a big baby. Yeah.
Well, write down the formula and send it out to the rest of them.
No, I'm keeping that one for myself. Thanks very much.
Christmas lights, Paul. Tell us all
Yeah.
about it.
My mother bought her Christmas lights in Woolworths in Henry Street in 1955.
Oh, that's right. Last week we had a set of lights that was 41 years old. And
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
very excited about that. We wondered aloud, did anybody else have lights that he could either equal that or possibly that were older?
That's right, yeah. Well, these ones now are 52 years old.
What?
And they're walking away, no problem whatsoever.
52 years old?
Yeah, 52. My brother was up there in the house last Thursday and he put them up for it. Checked all the wiring. We might make sure the wiring's safe, you know, because it's so old.
And what kind of lights are they, Paul?
They're quite big lights. They're sort of bell-shaped.
Yeah, they tended to be, the decorations tended to be much bigger and the bulbs were bigger as well.
Much bigger. And they're a small, the bulbs are a small, sort of miniature Edison screw,
Yeah.
handle-shaped bulb. Well, now, would you believe most of the bulbs are still original?
You're joking.
Absolutely. They're little coloured bulbs and all. It'd be quite hard to get now. You can still get them in some of the older hardware shops, but you can get them still just about.
Have you got a couple of spares?
Yeah, one or two.
And these were bought by whom?
By my mother
Yeah.
in 1955 when Woolworths was in
I wasn't
Henry.
even born.
No. Now, for 7 and 6. Now, I don't know what that is in new money, but you'd be old
Expensive
enough.
enough.
You'd be old enough to remember what the old money is, wouldn't you?
I would be, yeah, and I'm sure you are as well.
Not at all, you joke with me.
7 and sixpence. What would 7 and sixpence be? Well, I can
don't
tell
know.
you what it is in the middle money. 7 shillings would be 35 pence and sixpence is
Yeah.
2.5 pence. So we'd be about 36 or 37 pence, right?
Yeah, well, they weren't expensive.
So 36 or 37 pence by today's standard.
Yeah, I wouldn't know now.
About
I'm only a mere 44.
20 cent or something like that, it would have been.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
a lot
anyway,
for
there
a
was
set of
one value.
lights, is it?
Good value for money, I can tell you that much now. They don't make them like they used to.
All right, well, I'm going to give you something out of Santa's sack for the season that's in it, and seeing as you now have the oldest lights officially, well, for the time being.
Oh, yeah, well,
Let's see what I've got. What about Brown Thomas's? We'll start there, will we?
that's a good place to start, yeah.
Very good place to start.
I was in there yesterday myself, browsing around.
Nothing like a bit of browsing, eh?
Oh, that's it, yeah, my feet are killing me.
Now, you can use these on Christmas Day. They're designed, these are significant and exclusive. Patrick Gibaud designed Bordeaux red wine glasses. Restaurateur Patrick Gibaud launched his range of connoisseur wine glasses for Tipperary Crystal at his Michelin star restaurant in the Merrion Hotel in Dublin. Each unique piece of finely crafted crystal has Gibaud's personal design and input. Okay?
I'll raise a toast there, good self.
Thank you very much indeed,
Thanks very
and
much,
good
Gerry.
morning. God, it was a very busy weekend. Parties, just parties. I was just working so hard on behalf of the nation. We'd H. Crosby's party on Friday night, which was great. You may have seen a picture of me with the Minister for Health, Barry Harney, outside. I was trying to break in the time into his house, and that was a lovely evening altogether. Then it was off to a birthday party for the British Ambassador's wife on Saturday night. Belated happy birthday to Roseanne. It was another great night. It was a good crack at that. I tell you, he knows how to give a good party. And then yesterday we were off to meet some pals of ours down in Wicklow. We had a lovely day with them too. Crawled into bed last night, and I realised that it had been a long time since I'd been out for 3 or 4 nights on the trot. And you know what? It was good. Catherine, good morning to you.
Hello, how you doing, Gerry?
All the way from Limerick?
Yeah, all the way from Limerick.
All right, the Richard Harris statue.
Yeah.
They're slagging it off in the paper. They're saying that you guys are unhappy with it.
Yes, we are, because it's not Richard Harris at all. It's Sonny Knowles.
Sonny Knowles?
Yes, it is Sonny Knowles. So whoever made the statue, somebody had sent him in the wrong picture. because the statue is very nice. It's not Sonny No. It's Sonny
Not
No.
Richard
it's
Harris,
not Richard Harris at all. No.
I mean, Richard Harris was a wild, monster shirt wearing, wonderful, incredibly recognisable man. You know, that the picture I'm looking at looks like something out of
This
Willy
statue,
Wonka or something, you know.
Yeah, well, it's a bit smaller than it's about 5'3", I'd say.
Oh, the man was a giant.
He was 6'3", and and he kind of long features, and he wore scraggy hair, which suited him. And but this statue, no, the teeth are parted, and he's a wider face. It's Sonny Knowles.
Sonny Knowles. They've made a mistake. Audrey agrees with you, I think. Audrey?
Hi, Gerry, how are you?
Yeah, is it that bad?
Absolutely atrocious. I have to say now, I passed there last week with my husband doing a bit of Christmas shopping, and I said to him, what do you think of that? He said, who's it supposed to be? I said, it's Richard Harris. He said, you must be joking me. He said, not a bit, Gerry, all teeth and a big face, doesn't look anything like the man.
And I presume the scene is meant to be out from Camelot. It's him wearing a fairly camp-looking outfit as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you said, he was more a men's man, like with the rugged hair.
Why couldn't they have had him in his Munster rugby jersey with his hair and the proper height and his nose broken 22 times?
I don't know, Gerry, but I can tell you now, absolutely, it's a terrible section. I have to say, it doesn't do anything for the men or for what he accomplished in his life. It really doesn't.
It doesn't give you any sense of what the guy was really about. The man, the power of the fella, the daring of him, you know.
You just pass it and say, God, look at the state of that thing. Nothing like the men, I have to say, and it's sad, because he was a lovely man, and he did great work, you know.
And I wonder who the artist is.
I can't remember his name actually now, but I know that he was from Limerick himself.
And lads, Catherine, would this be a universal feeling? Would people generally feel this negative about it down in Limerick?
Well, I didn't know it was everybody to what they can see, but I can see Sonny Knowles, and I'm a great fan of Sonny Knowles. I've just bought his disc, and I'm listening.
So you'd be happy enough if Sonny Knowles' name was put on it?
And
I don't think Sonny Knowles has ever worn hose and doublet.
Well, I'll tell you, I met Richard Harris only the once, and down in Kilkee, and so he was such a different man, you know. As a matter of fact, I fecked him out of it.
You fecked him out of it?
I did, because we was getting off at this bus, you see. We had an excursion run down there, women and men, you know, like the Jolly Boys out, and it was all for old folks, senior citizens, and when we got to Kilkee, it started to lash rain, so we made a run down the road into this little bar, and he was standing there with his back to the door with a pint in his hand, and he was looking in, and we were trying to get into the pub, and we couldn't get in. He had the door blocked, and I said, stick out the way. I said, say you idiot, Joe. I said, say you're we were all getting drowned outside, you know, the rain.
I doubt he was deliberately trying to...
I shoved him out of the way, and so the crowd could get in out of the rain. All
right, and how did that go down?
So he turned around and he looked at her. He said, you're down, you know, all the crowd from Limerick, you know. And we were all old, you know, in our 50s.
That's not old.
Well, it was then, you know, that time. So anyway, and that, once my husband said to me, you're after shoving Richard Harris out of your way. And when I looked around and saw it was him then, sure, every picture was taken after that then. I was in the mall.
You were in the mall, yeah.
And swinging around his neck and all.
I'd say you're a great crack, all right, I can imagine.
I was in the mall, and I didn't know who the people were in the picture.
All right, this would seem to be... we're getting a kind of fairly negative response on this, are we? Yeah? Okay, girls, thanks very much indeed. Happy Christmas to you both. Wait a second, actually, I better give you something, will I?
Yay!
What am I going to give them? Hold on. Dee da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Ah, yes. Here's something from Paul Sheeran's for you, Catherine. La la da 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 da. I wonder what Santa's got for you. You ready? Oh, very nice. A beautiful brown leather jewellery box that will keep any woman's precious gems safe.
Oh, thank you.
That's for you, Catherine.
Oh, thank you.
And Audrey, let's see what we've got for you. Brown Thomas's or Paul Sheeran? Where'll I go to? Do you wear lingerie, Audrey? Do you?
Yeah, I do actually.
Do you? Okay, right. There we go. This is in BTs, right? You'll have to send us up a picture of yourself in this, right? This is the Pleasure State lingerie line. When you want the best for yourself, even everyday lingerie has to have a special touch, and that's what this... Anyway, I'm not going to go into any more detail on it, but suffice it to say, everybody will be very excited. Well done, girls. Thank you very much indeed. Now, the artist in question in relation to that statue that seems to be getting all the controversial press from Limerick this morning in the papers is Jim Connolly, and Jim's daughter Elizabeth is on the line. Elizabeth, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Gerry. Thank you.
Not at all. Thank you for taking the trouble to phone in. Well, they're giving out about your dad's statue.
They're giving out about it, Gerry. I'm very disappointed and I'm very hurt that they would do that. My father is he's a long-standing sculptor in this country, and he's done some amazing pieces in the past, and he's been commissioned by the likes of Tony O'Reilly and lots of, he's really done a lot. He did Damon de Valera in County Clare, and I'm very disappointed and hurt that people would come on and say these things. I think the very first thing that has to be corrected, and it's vital that this is corrected, the statue is not small. Richard Harris himself was 6 foot. This is coming from his brother. Richard Harris himself was 6 foot with possibly half an inch along with that. He was the same height as his brother Noel. The statue itself is over that. The statue is larger than life. It's 6 foot. I think it's over 6'2", I think. And it has a broad chest. I've forgotten the actual chest measurements now. I think it's a 48-inch chest or something. The statue is larger than life. I myself personally saw my father, saw the myriad of pictures and stuff that were supplied to him by the family, the videos that were watched, everything. The statue is as lifelike as could possibly be. And I think I won't try and defend the artistic kind of notions behind it. I think that it's theatre. It's everything that Richard Harris was and is, and it's the role that he was most remembered for, and the most important.
This is the role of the king in Camelot.
Absolutely, and I think that's the most important thing to remember. And the most important thing above all of that is that Richard Harris's family are thrilled with the statue. They feel it embodies the man he was. They feel that it embodies the character that he took on. And they're more than happy with it, as far as I'm aware, the county councillors that looked for the statue in the first place. And I think that overall the people of Limerick are happy with the statue. It's always the one or two who don't like it that will ring in. And I know that my father, he takes that kind of, every artist gets, you can't please everybody. And
I know, I've learned that.
You
certainly can. But I suppose the complaints seem to centre around maybe the choice of image. That really seems to be the issue. There are those who would like to see him in his rugby pint drinking pose with his hair flying in the wind, and then obviously his family chose it to be. Chose the idea. Chose a completely different image.
Absolutely. I mean, if that's what people want, I mean, anyone could have done that. Anyone could have stuck a statue of Richard Harris there, in a long black coat, just kind of standing around. I mean, what does that say about him? That he just stood there, This says so much more. This embodies who Richard Harris was. He was an amazing actor. He was something that Limerick should be proud of and are proud of, and that's why he's been commemorated in this spectacular theatrical way. And
what does it feel like when you hear people slagging your father?
It's very hurtful, Gerry, because I know my dad, he probably kill me for saying this, but my dad is over 70, and he's an amazing, amazing man, and he's the person that I look to for guidance in everything that I do. And it's very hurtful to hear people come on and say, especially for an artist, because I know myself, I'm a writer, and I do bits and pieces in that line. I don't do anything in sculpture. But I know that it's a very hurtful thing when someone criticises what you do and what you're passionate about, especially when it's lies as well. I mean, the issue of the size of it and everything, that's all wrong. The issue of the likeness to Richard Harris, that's all completely incorrect. People obviously don't know Richard Harris. And obviously don't remember him in that role if they can't see the likeness. Well,
of course, for those who may wonder why the Camelot role is so significant, Camelot, when Richard Harris became, I suppose, unfashionable as far as casting directors were concerned, and he couldn't really get very much work. He had a large period of his life pre the field, I suppose you would say, when he was not being offered very serious roles. And he was smart enough and bright enough to buy the rights to Camelot, which he'd starred in on screen. And he relentlessly toured a stage musical version of the movie. And it was incredibly successful. It saved his bacon. It made his fortune for him.
Absolutely, it really did. And I think as well, for anyone who has seen the statue, the pose that it's in, the pose that my father has kind of struck with this is Richard Harris, and he's holding up the sword, but he's holding it back to front, in the sense that he's holding the metal part, and if you know what I mean, in his hand. And he's saying, the statue is basically saying peace, not war. And I think in a lot of ways that's a really important message for Limerick in general, for the whole country. And I think it really is. It's a wonderful statue and a wonderful embodiment of Richard Harris.
Well, I can tell the amount of affection in your voice that you have for your father, and obviously the high esteem that you hold him in. So thank you, Elizabeth Connolly. Good morning.
Not at all. Thank you. Thanks, Gerry.
Yeah, and we all have our memories, I suppose, of Richard Harris. Richard Harris would attend with a huge number of guests his favourite city in the world, of course, which was Limerick. And he used to stay in Dromolin Castle around Christmas time, and that meant that over the years we would inevitably bump into one another at Christmas time. He was always an amusing man, an imposing figure, a generous, gregarious kind of character. But he was also quite magical, and I do recall on one occasion, I think he had come back. I think his brother had died. I've told you this story maybe once before. His brother had come back, and at least his brother had died, and Richard had come back to attend the funeral. And I was staying in Dromolin with, I think we had 2 children at the time, if I recall, our 2 oldest, obviously. And they were only little kids. They were only little ones. And one morning we woke to find them missing. They were gone from the room. Now, unlike, I suppose, today, or indeed probably many other places where you might spend time or stay with your family, in Dromolin Castle, if your children aren't in the bedroom when you wake up, you know that they're somewhere safe. They're just running around, having an adventure somewhere. But despite that, I got up and I said, I'll just check and make sure that they're, not running around in their underwear or something like that. And as I made my way out onto the top landing from the bedroom, I was greeted with a most magical Dickensian sight. There they were, still in their pyjamas, lying on their tummies, right, with 2 bowls of cereal, eating their cereal and staring into the face of a man who, for all the world, resembled Scrooge, taken out of A Christmas Carol. And he was in this long, full-length nightshirt, and he was lying also on his stomach, staring into the eyes of these 2 little children. And they were both lying, all 3 lying down on their tummies on the landing. And he was regaling them with some story, not read, but spontaneously either created out of the ether, or maybe some classic tale. I never really found out what he had been telling them. But he just looked up at me, I remember, and he went, "They're fine, they're grand, go back to bed." And I just remember thinking, wow. As an extraordinary man. He didn't know them from Adam, and yet he was there telling them a story which was obviously so engaging and so powerfully told that these 2 little tearaways were as quiet as 2 little church mice. 1850 715 922. Here's a text. I visit Richard's brother every week. I only bought him out photos of the statue last week as he had not been in town since the unveiling. And he is very happy with it, writes one texter on 51552.
This is the Gerry Ryan Show on 2FM. Call 08457 585 285 from Northern Ireland.
Go to the movies for just a moment, okay?
Hey, baby. Surprise. I know this probably feels a little bit morbid, but I just hate the idea that I'm not going to be there to see you freak out over turning 30. I mean, it kills me not to be there. That's funny.
It's not.
Okay, no, it's not. You're going to be so impressed. I have a plan, baby. Can you believe it? I've written you letters. Letters that will be coming to you all sorts of ways. I thought I'd wait until your birthday because I figured you weren't even stepping out of the house for a while. Letter number 1 will be arriving tomorrow. Now, you must do what I say, okay? Okay? And don't try to figure out how the letters are coming. It's too brilliant and it'll ruin my plan. Just go along with me on this. Because the thing is, I just can't say goodbye yet. So, for starters, I want you to get dolled up and just go out and celebrate tonight. Go out with your girlies. I hereby free you from a party with your family, especially your mum. Oh, well, your mum's there, isn't she? Sorry, Patricia. It isn't that I don't love your mum, but you need to get a little crazy, so have a slice of the bloody cake, put on your party dress, and get out of the apartment. Denise, make a plan.
I'm on it. I'll help.
Just leave me with John, okay? And know that wherever I am, I'm missing you. Happy birthday. I love you.
Well, it must always be rather strange to hear the words that you've written and the thoughts and the ideas and the scenarios that you've created suddenly have a full orchestra coming up behind them. She's young, she's blonde, she's gorgeous, she's wealthy, and she's extremely talented.
Wow.
Do you know who that is, do you? Who would that be?
I don't know, haven't met her.
Celia Hearn used to be known as the Taoiseach's daughter. Nowadays, the Taoiseach is known as her father. Her first novel, P.S. I Love You, has been made into a major motion picture and it's due to open here later this week. And the cast is rocking with Hilary Swank, Lisa Kudrow from Friends and Kathy Bates as just some of the lineup. She joins us in studio after doing, I think, probably about 100 interviews already about this. So you must be fairly interviewed out of it. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
And of course, I read this morning, which is always very cheering for an interviewer to read that you don't like doing live interviews. But I see you're very at ease with Ryan Tuberty, I saw you on the telly.
Yeah, it was perfect. They were very good.
Were they pleasant and polite?
They were very nice, yeah. They didn't attack me.
Well, how wealthy are you?
Oh, lovely question. I'm very comfortably happy.
Are you amazed?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because you don't do this for money. I mean, that's the one thing I have to say. You don't become a writer for money. You can't do anything creative for money because then you're not creating something. It's just all for the wrong reasons. So the fact that it comes with, you know, it's successful, then it's just a bonus, really.
And of course, you have been successful. How many have you written so far?
I've written 5, 4 published.
Okay. And this, in fact, was the first. P.S. I Love You
Yes,
is the first. Yeah. And it was the one that was taken up by Hollywood and turned
Yes,
into a script
yeah.
and subsequently turned into a movie, which of course means there's going to be more after that. Can you remember, because I remember you in Panto, and I remember Louis Walsh actually saying that you were great in Panto, and I'm no stranger to Panto now. There's quite a few of the young Ryan ladies at home. Our Panto dames, our queens, our princesses, whatever way they want to describe it. And it really means, I think when you find yourself in Panto, it really means that you've got that disease. You've got that thing where you want to put yourself out there as if you hadn't had enough putting yourself out there since you were a child. I can recall you standing beside your dad probably when he was Minister for Finance on Budget
that was
Day.
the first big scary moment.
Can you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember that moment. That was, we thought we were just walking out to the car and they opened the door and there was like, there were dozens of photographers and my dad was like, oops, I forgot to tell you.
Oops, my foot. That's the kind of thing I do. No, it's fine, he's grand. But Mum says he's a member of the paparazzi. He is, but he's cool, he's great. Don't worry, you look brilliant. You always do.
That was the first moment, I think, that me and Georgina were experienced that kind of thing.
And what did that feel like? How old were you?
I think, was I about 10, maybe 10, 11. It was just really bizarre. It was quite terrifying. They were all shouting your name and asking you to look this way and
look over here, look over here.
Yeah. And so we were kind of giggly and nervous and didn't really know what or why it was happening, or, you know, it was just a confusing moment, but it was...
Did you get what your dad was?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we sat through his speech. We used to listen to it every year, so... And he, you know, he was great because leading up to it, he always used to make us believe that we were actually changing the price of cigarettes. He used to say to me and Georgina, now how much do you think we should put it up this year? And we'd make up a number and we'd think it was us that did it, when it wasn't at all.
There are worse ways of deciding it.
But so we knew, we did know what he was up to.
And were you very proud of him then?
Yeah.
Did you realise he was important?
Yeah, I mean, we'd sit. I mean, obviously that moment, and all the photographers are there, and he's holding the briefcase out, and we'd sat through, a few hours of his speech, and the whole family were there, and we knew it was a moment to be proud of.
And did he ask you what you thought? Did he say, "How do you think I did?"
Well, I think he'd say, "Did you enjoy that?" And we'd say, "Well done." Yeah, of course, normal. We wouldn't just not say anything after that.
All the normal embarrassing things for the children of men with famous faces. Yeah, I'm quite familiar with that. Who would have thought at that moment in time, and maybe you had some inclination of it, that eventually your own face would end up being plastered from one end of the world to the other, and that, you would become the subject of so much debate, so much praise, criticism, all the things that go at sticking your mush out into the public. When did you first decide that was a good idea?
It was...
Because you could have hidden away. Children of famous people normally do that. They normally hide away.
Yeah.
Forever.
The funny thing was, I mean, we were very much kept out of things. I always say when I go to different countries, it's totally different politics here. It's not concentrated on the family, it's on the person. There is no first family or anything like that. So it was always, the attention was on Dad. So we did have a very private life. But I had just grown up loving singing and dancing, and went to classes every week. And
where did you go?
It was a local school in Malahide, and then I went to Diggs Lane, which was obviously in Diggs Lane.
Oh, the rehearsal.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. Yeah,
and so I loved that, and like with all my friends, we would go to auditions for shows, and so that's what we did. I never consciously thought I want to step out there now and try to be something, or be known. It was just I went along with all my friends and did the same thing that they were doing.
But what did you dream of, though? Because I think, how old would you have been when you were doing that? What, 12?
Yeah, I mean, I started probably about 8 or 9,
yeah.
And then, all the way till, I think 14, 15, I started doing the shows and everything.
Yeah. But you must believe, though, that maybe something will happen. Maybe a Louis Walsh.
I wanted to be a dancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I just thought that would be the most perfect thing for me, because I adored it. I like taking things that I like to do and then trying to make them into a career. I think that's what most people should do, something that you enjoy. So, I did. I suppose I wanted to become a dancer. That was my dream.
And were you the kind that when the run ended, did you bawl your eyes out with the rest of them backstage?
Oh, we cried all night. I remember when
the one thing that I dread is when it ends and they're all coming home crying. And
it's such an intense experience. Doing 2 shows a day for, 2 months. It's hard work, and it is very family-like. The whole cast become like a family. So it was a really good experience. But you know what? I wasn't good enough.
When did you figure that out?
Oh, even there.
Brave, courageous,
yeah, I wasn't
honest,
good enough.
But not too difficult when you're quite wealthy and successful as a novelist to say.
I wasn't. I was good, but I wasn't good enough to be professional. I knew that.
How did you know that?
I don't know. I just
did somebody
felt
tell
it,
you?
I suppose. No, I think I always had to work harder than everybody else. It was probably more natural to them. But so I'll openly say that I have no problem at all. But I was good, but I wasn't good enough. Not good enough to be professional. I couldn't have.
So because I remember my eldest son, and I'll try not to tell too much of the story because it's not fair, but I remember he saying he was in school, he was asked to write, what did he want to do? And he said he wanted to be a professional footballer. This was his first year when he went to school. Mm. And he really meant it, like he wrote it down, a little essay and everything like that. And I said, yeah, look, Jesus, I said, I'm a failed solicitor, look, I'm after doing really well. Talking, no reason why you shouldn't be a footballer. And then I remember him listening when he got older and he became a teenager. I remember listening to him talking to his mother, and she said, so you're going to be a footballer. So this is a couple of years later, and he said, nah, that was just a dream, I'm not good enough. And I remember going, I actually nearly started crying when I heard it. Now, it wasn't as big a deal to him, he'd accepted it, but it was that moment in his life where he decided, no, I'm going to be an accountant probably, to be honest. What was it like for you when you realised that? Well,
by that stage I had, I knew, in my family it didn't matter because it was, I had to finish school, and the best thing to do was to go to college, to have something to fall back on. It was always that phrase. And so I knew what I wanted to do in college. Since I was younger, I'd always said I wanted to do a degree in communications. That was the course that I'd read about, because you did radio broadcasting and writing and production, film production and all that kind of thing, and film studies.
You went to Griffith, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to Griffith, and I ended up doing that. So it was exactly what I wanted.
Up in Griffith, I believe.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, one of the alumni, isn't it? The Illuminated.
God, I bet they never thought they'd be doing that when I was there.
There's a Sacred Heart lamp in front of you.
Gosh. But yeah, so I got to do what I loved. So that was as soon as I finished all the band stuff and the dancing and singing, which I really enjoyed, I just knew it wasn't for me. Couldn't make a career out of it. Didn't actually want to.
Better go and do something.
Yeah, I didn't want to either. It wasn't,
And was communications, was that the cool thing to do at the time, was it?
No, I just felt like it was the thing that I liked, that I felt that I was good at, creative writing.
And it kind of still keeps you in show business, in a way.
Well, I wonder. Well, I wanted to be behind the scenes, though. I'd figured out by that stage I was definitely not the person in front of the camera or in front or on the stage. I kind of realised, I suppose, that I liked how to create things. Yeah. Myself behind the scenes, not necessarily be the person that was fronting it.
And who'd have been the strongest in terms of you've got to be really sensible, you better do the degree, you better have something to fall back on, learn how to cook, get a rich husband, get an accountancy degree. Who's a mum or dad?
They're both very sensible. But it was always...
Who's the most lecturing? Who lectures the most? Your mother or your father?
Oh, nobody. They don't, you see, that's the good thing about them. They don't lecture. They kind of, in their very clever ways, let you know how they feel, their philosophies, and by maybe telling you what they did or things like that. Nice little ways, but never lectures. So you always felt like it was still your decision to be made. They would guide you. I suppose that's the word. They guided us. But it was very much our decision to live our life how we wanted to. Yet they gave us really good...
guiding is pretty clever.
I think it's the best way.
Making you feel you've come up with the plan.
Yeah. I
Very
think that's
clever.
what parenting is, isn't it, really?
Well, most of us end up just lecturing or threatening or cajoling or bribery. I actually resorted to bribery for a while. Study, I will pay you. That doesn't work either. It's better if you actually think that you're doing it because you've come up with the idea.
Well, and if we didn't, if we made a wrong decision, then we had to suffer the consequences, and we learned from that. So I liked the way they parented. They were very, very open with us. Who's the toughest? I have to say neither. Neither of them are tough. Honestly, they were always very strict, but they had nice little lessons. Like when we were growing up, Dad would always, we went out for lunch or something, we'd always have to, even as really, really young kids, we'd have to order our own thing, order from the menu ourselves, and then we'd have to go up and he'd give us the money and we would pay for the bill. So just the little tiny little life lessons that they would do even that way to make you confident about doing things. Did you go to the Wales, did you? No. You weren't allowed? No, it was that's over the other side of the city. The wrong side of the city. So where did you go first? If it wasn't the Wales for you, where was it? It was the GAA club in Malahide, St Sylvester's. Ah, yeah, I know that, yeah. So that's where. Do you remember the first night there? Yeah, thankfully. It's a good sign, isn't it? Yeah, very good sign. Tell us, what was the first night? How old were you? God, I think, at what age? Probably about 12 or 13 did you start going, I think. But there was a huge big gang of us, about 10 of us would go and just face the DJ and, just dance in one straight line. Why was that ever invented? But can you remember any of the music? No. None of it? No. Did your sister ever go out with you? No, not at that age, but I suppose when we got older, yeah, we did. Okay, going to take a quick break. If you'd like to join us, 1850 715 922. P.S. I Love You is going to be in our cinemas in the not too distant future. In fact, I think it's later this week. It's been in your shops as a book for quite some time and doing very nicely. Thank you very much indeed. And we have the author and the creator, Cecilia Hearn, in studio this morning. Michelle, we've got a couple of people on the line that want to say hello to you. Is that okay? Yeah. They're all lovely people. Michelle, good morning. Good morning, Gerry. Hello, Cecilia. Hi. How are you? I'm good, thank you. Cecilia, your book is absolutely brilliant. Oh, thank you. About 3 years ago, and I read it every couple of months, and I still cry every time. What makes you cry? First of all, why do you read it every couple of months? Oh, it's just brilliant. It's the letters, more or less, from Gerry. It's just the very first letter is really, really heartbreaking that Holly got. Wow. And is there a particular reason, Michelle, that it touches you, is there? It's just, if anything happened to you that way, you just feel it yourself. If you lose somebody, you just don't want to lose them. That's more or less it. So would you like somebody to write you letters? Well, I'd like a letter, but not in that way. No karaoke for you. No, thanks. Not in those circumstances. No, I actually was over in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, and I seen that the film was coming out, and I couldn't believe it. I just can't wait to see it now. Well, it's coming out now this week.
So
Yes.
you'll have your chance.
Yeah,
Okay, Michelle, good morning.
Thank you.
You better reads it every couple of months.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Probably knows it better than I do.
Kathleen, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gerry. Good morning, Cecilia.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Kathleen, you've seen the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was very good.
Where did you see it?
I went to see it in Limerick last Wednesday night. And, oh, it was so funny. You had the fun and you had the romance and you had the sadness.
Did you cry?
I did. We all shed a tear, I think. But I was just interesting what the male side of it would think, you know, the male
Who did you bring?
My daughter, my sister and my niece.
But no men.
No men.
And were there men there?
There was about 10, I'd say, you know. But to their reaction, I'd love to know. But it was absolutely very good. No, I haven't read the book. But
That's always an interesting one, to come to the story through the screen. Will you go to the book then?
I will. My daughter has the book. She's read 2 or 3 of her books.
Mm.
And my sister and my niece read it. But I haven't read it yet.
Because I think one of the rewards of when you go to the book, I don't know whether you, Celia, agree. I remember the first book that I read after seeing the movie of the story was Arthur C. Clarke's 2001. Now, the movie was made by Stanley Kubrick and was absolutely amazing. But by the time I'd gotten to read the book, there was so much detail, there's so much more going on in the book, whether it's a romance or whether it's a massive epic or whatever it happens to be. There's so much more. You're always rewarded more when you go back to the book.
I think with film, obviously you can't include every single storyline that's in the novel. And with P.S. I Love You, in the novel, there was a very, very big family, very boisterous, loud, fun family, and there was a lot of little storylines going on between the main character and her family. Whereas you can't have all those characters in the film. So that was, she only has one sister, and there was kind of, they introduced a new little story where the father isn't around. So there are changes. And so that's, it is interesting to read the book then to see how different it is. But it still keeps the heart of the story.
It's the fleshed out story. That's what I like. And inevitably, that's usually what you're going to get when you go back to the written word. Kathleen, what did the rest of them think with you?
They all thought it was very good. They said it's a bit different from the book.
Yeah.
But it was very, you know, and there was no, with the light of everything, with the drugs and this crime, everything, there was nothing like that in it.
No cocaine, you mean? How could it be a modern Irish story without truckloads of cocaine?
It was just absolutely lovely.
Oh, great. Thank
All
you.
right, well, you certainly seem to have liked it.
For you.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Actually, on that note of changing, you know, and fine-tuning and trimming the fat, I suppose, is the way that scriptwriters and movie producers look at it, so they can get the story into a particular time frame, and also so that it doesn't end up costing $1 billion to make it. Did you much say over that?
No, I
did
didn't
that worry
at all.
you?
No, actually, because I prepared myself at the very beginning, as soon as the deal was done, that I wasn't going to be involved.
I mean, do they
in
say
it.
that to you? Did they say, by the way, ma'am, you know that
No, but it's
we
in
own
the
you
contract.
now.
In the contract, they are free to do whatever they like with it. And you know, and
did you read that sentence and go straight away, okay, that's okay?
Yeah, I felt okay about it. I absolutely did, because it would be different if someone was meddling with my book. You know, if somebody tried to rewrite my book and rewrite it differently, then that would be a problem. But because it's a totally different thing, I mean, it's a visual experience. It's not a novel. It's not my novel. You know, the book is my baby, and I saw the film as being, you know, Richard Le Gravenet's child, you know, his baby. And so I was actually open. I was happy and positive about it being changed. If I was writing the screenplay, I would have to change it, because you can't put a book directly as it is onto the screen. It doesn't work. So I think as soon, you know, you have to be open about that.
So did you have any contact with the screenplay team or the scriptwriters?
No, he did it all by himself. The director, actually, Richard Le Gravenet's, wrote the script. And
all by himself?
Yes, all by himself.
And he edited the script as well himself?
Yes, yeah.
When did you get shown it?
I saw
Or did you
it-
read it before you actually saw the movie?
Yes, I did read it, actually. And even when I read it, it was quite different to the actual final version, because it changes so much. A few characters were gone and a few more were added in, and it's just constantly changing.
And did you agree with everything, or do you go, I kind of like that, but well, it's gone anyway, read on?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the big family, and I loved, there was a brother that she had that was one of my favourite characters, called Richard. And And I just thought, oh, it's a shame that he's not there. But look what else he introduced. You know, he brought in a whole new character called William that isn't in the novel, and I really liked that. So you just have to be open. You know, I knew I didn't want to be whinging and moaning about the fact that it was going to be different. I just wanted to be excited about the fact that it was something different. So I think people need to bear that in mind when they go to watch it.
Absolutely, and it is something different. It is quite different, but the heart of the story, I think, is there.
That's all I wanted.
What was it like? Can you describe where you watched it? Who were you with?
Yeah, we went over to New York about 2 months ago. Myself, my mum, my agent and my boyfriend. And because they were like the three people who, you know, my agent obviously did the deal. She was very, very influential as well. She's a very inspiring person. And my mum is the one that encouraged me to write it. It was dedicated to my boyfriend. And I thought it was a lovely little... Well, Georgina couldn't come because she had the babies. And my dad wasn't available. So we went over to a little screening room in New York. And there were a few other people there as well. But I'd say there was no more than 10. And I just sat there. And from the moment I walked in to the room, I think I was crying because I was so excited about it and so emotional. And it was fantastic. And then we watched it for the 2 hours and just cried. And then afterwards we went and celebrated.
Well, that must have been an amazing experience.
It was, because each scene, you know, reminded me of where I was when I was writing it. You know, went back 5 years to the girl at the kitchen table in her pyjamas who had no idea what I was doing. I was just writing a story. Didn't know where it was going to go. Didn't know anybody would be remotely interested in what I had to say. Some people still aren't. But, you know, it was just that. It was a wonderful moment where it was kind of like flashback over the last few years.
Yeah. And how old were you when you started writing?
Well, when I wrote PS, I was 21.
21. Very young. Did you write it in a copybook? Did you write it on a laptop?
A refill pad, yeah.
A refill pad?
That's what it's called.
With a pencil?
With a pen.
Or a pen.
Yeah, and I love writing longhand.
Yeah.
I mean, I love writing. I love the whole flow of, you know, the ink going on the paper, and that's all part of it for me. I find when I'm typing, it's very mechanical, and I can't really...
No, actually, I find it very... I find... Now, obviously, you have to use computers for a lot of, you know, what you do in the world of communications anyway. But I think anything creative, I find, kind of half dies. That's not the general experience, I gather, but it kind of half dies, I think, when it's going through a keyboard. Yeah,
because it's when you're writing longhand, it's like a flow. You know, it's a flow from where it's coming from, right down through the pen and into the paper. That's how
Who read it first?
My mom. My mom was the first to read the first chapter, and she loved it so much, or maybe she's just been an encouraging mother, that she said, you know, write another one. And every time I wrote another one, she wanted to read a third and a fourth and a fifth. And so it was her that kept encouraging me. And it was also her that suggested I try and send it to somebody and try and get it published. Because before that, I was really, really just writing a story for myself.
Yeah, that's kind of difficult to understand, I think, maybe for some people. You know, what? It's not a diary. It wasn't about your life. There's almost nothing autobiographical in it. Sure, there isn't. Well, or is there?
I mean, there are. I mean, there's part of me that goes into all of my characters, and I'm sure when people see it or read it, there's, you know, myself and Holly share this journey that I was at that stage in my life, didn't know. I just finished college. It was the beginning of this new life. I was supposed to decide what I wanted to do. I was in the house in my pyjamas up all night writing. She barely wanted to leave her house. Family trying to get her out and do things. And then the letters were helping her. My writing was helping me. And then by the end of it, we both had this new life. So it was very much, you know, very much what I was going through at that time. But obviously not. I didn't lose my husband and all that kind of thing. And the characters aren't people in my life. But the whole journey, it was the same.
I mean, you know, your mum and dad had split up. There were things in your life that were distressing and difficult, I suppose, that a lot of Irish families have to live with now, and that you either bring them into your life or they destroy you, really, to be honest. If you don't manage to grasp the nettle, they will destroy you. But you had the double whammy of having very famous parents. You know, it wasn't just your father. Your mum was very famous as well. Can there be anybody in Ireland who doesn't know these two faces? And it's like you're there, you're writing in your longhand on your refill pad. You know, where am I going to end up? I mean, were you worried about that? You know, there's me dad, they're separated, there's me ma. Where am I going to end up? What's going to happen to me?
Actually, no, not in terms of, I mean, they've been separated since I was 5, so I think I was long over that. And I never really, I didn't feel like I had to live up to any kind of success. I just wanted to do something that made me happy, and it was about finding that thing. And just like the characters, about finding that thing that you can wake up every day and be happy about and be excited about. And I started writing the novel, and I was really excited about it. It was the only thing.
So you were making your world.
Yeah, I was. I definitely disappeared into this book for months, 3 months, didn't leave the house, was writing all night, sleeping all day. I mean, that's why it's such a precious story to me. And to watch it back then is quite incredible.
So a lot of pyjamas.
A lot of pyjamas, but there's a very good line you can get now.
Barbara, good morning.
I should do my own line.
You should, yeah. That's right.
The writer's
P.S. I love you,
uniform.
pyjamas.
Yeah.
Barbara, good morning.
Morning, Gerry.
How are you?
Grand. I just wanted to thank Cecilia very much for writing that book. It really, really helped me. My partner died 7 weeks before I had my baby, and the book was given to me while I was waiting to go into labour, and I laughed and cried through it, and it was a really, really good book to read.
Wow, thank you.
You're okay.
That must have been quite an experience. I mean, the book must have had huge resonance for you then.
Huge, because instead of getting letters, I had texts that I had kept all the time. So where the character in the book got letters, I had texts just to read over and stuff.
Do you still have those texts?
I still have them. All of them from the night I told him I was pregnant until 3 nights before he died. I kept them all.
What happened to him?
He killed himself. So it was a really, really good book to read, and I can't wait to see the film.
Well, you are more than eminently qualified, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. And the character didn't go outside for ages. My baby was 10 months before I left the house. I just centred my life around him.
And how are you now?
Grand, not a bother. Got a new house and moving on, so just working my way through. It's all you can do. You either laugh or you cry, and you get up and get on with it.
What was your fellow's name?
Paul.
Okay.
So.
You take care of yourself, Barbara.
Will do. All right. Thanks very much, Celia.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
There you go.
Oh.
Can you imagine that?
Well, I wanted to create a positive story. It is somebody about, it's like a healing. She heals herself and he helps her heal herself through the letters. I wanted to take up something that was really dark, that we all have to deal with and is almost impossible to think about, and turn it into something that can be positive.
Do you think of people like Barbara? I mean, I think those things, I hear so much of that so often here, and I'm still quite shocked by it. I still often wonder, how trite do you sound after you've finished the conversation when you've talked to somebody like that who's obviously been through something incredible. Yeah. But for you, your book at that time for a woman like her must have been quite an incredible experience. Well, by her own admission, it was. And what does that make you feel like? It was important for me I received a lot of letters from people who'd been through similar circumstances, and it was important for me to read those stories. What did that do to you? To know that no matter what I'm creating that's coming from my imagination, that there are people out there who have experienced what I'm writing. It meant that I'm tapping into something. I felt that I was tapping into something, that it came from inside of me, but that resonates with people. That was important to know, that no matter what I'm writing, that there's people out there reading it on a different level, that they're connecting with it. Did you feel in any way, oh, please don't tell me these stories, I didn't really mean it to be this serious, I didn't mean you to be... Well, no, because they were positive letters. I felt, wow, if it's helped one person, that if it has helped anybody, that's incredible. Well, there's a perfect example of it. I mean, a counsellor got in touch with me, or not a counsellor, a woman had told me that her therapist, counsellor, told her to read the book as a kind of to help her through it. And I thought, wow, imagine something that I wrote being able to do that. So it's a good thing. Of course, the stories are heartbreaking and they're really, really difficult to read sometimes. But I find that if it's helped somebody, then you've done a good thing. Are you surprised at how fragile we can be? How emotional we can become? How human beings are not really all that strong, and actually be really suspicious of people who are too strong. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about emotions. That's are you? All of my stories. Are you a big baller, are you? I cry at everything. I cry at the news. I cry at Oprah makeovers. I cry at everything. Because I think I just feel for everybody,
all of the time, and that's what I like to put in my novels. It's all about emotion. So people say, you haven't experienced the death of a husband. No, but I've experienced the things that people go through. You can grieve in lots of different ways. You know what it's like to be lonely, to feel left behind, to not know what you're going to do tomorrow. Everybody has experienced that. And so if the emotions are real, then people can identify with your stories. It doesn't matter what the character has been through if they understand the emotions.
Cecilia Hearn in studio this morning. Her first novel, P.S. I Love You, as you can tell from some of the calls, it means an awful lot to a lot of people, has now been made into a movie, a major motion picture movie, ready to hit your screens sometime this week. The cast, including Hilary Swank, Lisa Kudrow from Friends, and Kathy Bates, is pretty stellar. Andy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Gerry. I'm fine. And yourself?
Very good.
Good morning, Cecilia.
Morning.
It's in my eldest daughter. She'll be 12 next month, and she has a very big interest in writing stories. And she's done a few. We're just wondering what advice or where could she go the next step. What can she do?
What's next? That's the $60 million. Forget $60,000 is no good now. $60 million question.
Well, it's fantastic that at 12 she loves writing.
Yeah.
I love to see kids doing that. Or not kids, she's a young lady. I think it's important as well for people to be reading what she's writing and giving her lots of encouragement. That's always helped me. I mean, it's one thing to write for yourself, but you never know. It's hard to keep continuing.
It's not alive until somebody else has read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's good that, she can give it to either you and get encouragement. I think as well to give it to her teachers at school, because she just needs all the support from around her as much as possible.
She's given them to one or two of her pieces have been kept by the school. Now they're only short stories, but they're keeping them at the school just to display on,
Oh, very good. Well, I don't know, maybe you can send them in for newsletters or local papers or things like that if she wants them to be published. But I think the best thing is that she enjoys doing it, that she finds her own voice, that she, she's so young at this stage, but just to try and be unique and create her own stories and just keep, I suppose, encouraging her.
Mm-hmm.
There are workshops and things, of course, that she can go to that teach you some of the techniques, the mechanical techniques of constructing a story. The only technique I know, of course, is make the very first sentence very interesting. And then you have to have talent after that bit. But those classes can be really, well, first of all, they can be great fun. And secondly, they can help somebody who's got a natural gift fine-tune it so that it becomes comprehensible. After that, there's a huge number of people out there willing to take your money away from you and publish your book. And then you go, oh, that's amazing. I sold 400 and I still owe the publisher 20,000. So you have to watch out for that. Yeah. You have to watch out for that. But there are others who will take a punt on something if it's good.
I think it's good as well if she reads as many different things as possible.
Yeah, buckets of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, buckets of it.
You can never read too many books.
We have no problem in that department. She does read enough.
Actually, Andy, now that you mention it, maybe when we come back in the new year, we'll bring somebody in to talk about, that kind of that foot slogging time, which you obviously kind of glide through, Cecilia, that foot slogging time.
I apologise to writers all around the world.
Because for some, it's something that goes on for a long, long time before they actually hit pay dirt. We'll try and get somebody to give advice on that for you, okay?
That would be great.
Okay, we'll do that in the new year. Here's a text, 51552. Hi, Gerry, love the show. Cried the whole way through the book, dreading the film. Can't imagine how much crying there'll be involved, but can't wait. Can you ask Cecilia where she got the fab dress that she had on Ryan Tuberty? I need to get my hands on one for my friend's wedding on New Year's Eve. Thanks, Laura.
On Ryan Tuberty, that was a La Perla dress.
Oh, La Perla, who make that fabulous lingerie.
Yes, and it was from Italy.
Yeah.
But I didn't buy it in Italy, somebody brought it over.
Who bought it for you?
I did a fashion shoot and they brought them over. So maybe there's La Perla here, isn't there?
There is La Perla.
Yeah, La Perla dress.
You can go online.
You can get it online, actually. No, you can't get it online.
Sorry, there's absolutely... Sorry, I know from the amount of boxes that arrive FedEx into my house that there is nothing that you can't get from Victoria's Secrets or Bloomingdale's or Saks or whatever. It'll all come in online, yeah. You can't remember what it was called, though, by any chance, can you?
Oh, I have no idea.
No idea.
But she'll see it.
Do you still have it?
I do. You can't
have to give it back. Now, of course, with fame, with fortune, with success also comes criticism, and you'll face criticism. You've got plenty of praise already there this morning, enough to keep any woman going for
and
quite a few hours.
And now we balance it out.
Well, there will be, and there always are people. I mean, first of all, there is a whole selection of people in the professional and lay people who hate the genre that you write in. What can you do for them? Nothing, really, to be honest. No. Certainly it's one thing I've learnt over the years is if they just hate what you do, they hate what you do, and you're not really going to make that any different. Opening up the newspapers and reading that something you've done is crap. That's another thing, though. How do you deal with that?
I don't know. I just think I'm well prepared. I, from the very beginning, expected that to be the case. I think maybe it's growing up with a dad in politics. You're used to hearing bad things, so it's not. I mean, at the beginning, people around me were very, very upset and thinking this is awful what people are saying, and I was kind of like, really, is it that shocking? You know, it just went over my head. You know, I kind of didn't read a lot of it. Some I read and found so funny that I had to stop reading because they weren't real reviews. They were talking any review that's going to talk about your family background, you know, and all the wrong things that should, you know, things that shouldn't be in a book review, didn't count. So
what counts at the end of the day?
I don't mind criticism. I really don't mind if somebody doesn't like a book. I read lots of books that I don't like. It doesn't mean that I think the author's bad. It just means I didn't like the book. So constructive criticism, maybe. I don't mind. Yeah, make a face. I don't mind if somebody says I need to work on this or work on that.
With loads of money and loads of people buying what you do. That's really the only thing that counts.
Look, you can't please everybody, you know, and we've heard the stories today. There are a lot of people that connect with your work. There are a lot of people that just will never get it, that don't see the talent. A lot of people think that because something's heartwarming, it lacks intelligence. You know, there are a lot of people that just come from things from a totally different view, and I don't mind. I like that people are different.
Do you anticipate that it's going to... What are the ruins, what are the entrails of the chickens in Hollywood telling us? Do you think it's going to be successful?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully. You can never know, but...
well, look, Will Smith's movie's doing really well at the moment. They were saying that was shite.
I think so.
Look, I really don't know.
So is there hope for me?
I don't know how they call it now, you know. I mean, look, with no disrespect, for instance, to John Banville, who I greatly admire, like, John Banville has sold a very small number of books, you know, and I think if he was here, he'd be the very first to admit it, you know. Yeah, I got a great prize. Didn't sell too many books, really, at the end of the day. For me, it's as many people as is humanly possible hearing or looking at or reading what you've done. That's really what success is. You
just hope that you just want somebody to enjoy it. And for me, the passion is in writing. You know, even if I wouldn't be published, I'd still write. I would do it for myself. It's how I started in the first place. So the bonus is in people connecting with what I'm writing about. That's
so what's next?
I have a new book out in April called Thanks for the Memories. And until then, I am... sleeping.
Sleeping. What are you going to do for Christmas?
Christmas will be in my sister's house. Everybody will go.
Oh, that'll be wild.
Yes, it will. It will.
That'll be wild. Does he really babysit the twins? Does he?
Absolutely.
The dad? Does he?
Yeah.
Does he do the nappies?
No, he does the bottles.
Good, yeah. Well, he'd know how to do that. Right. Okay, it's been charming having you with us this morning. I wish you the very best of luck. Slings and arrows, bank accounts increasing, joys, highs, lows, all the things that are going to inevitably come with having your mush splashed from here to LA and back on billboard and broadsheet. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
I think you seem to have the talent for that, that's for certain, and have a long and a happy and a healthy career.
Thank you.
Okay, God bless you and good luck to you.
Thanks very
Cecilia.
much.
We'll actually just take another little piece from the movie, I think.
Hey, Big Mama. Make sure my baby has a good time. Make sure you and John do everything you want to do, whenever you want to do it. And make sure my baby does things. I want you to take her fishing.
Oh, God! He's been wanting to get me on a lake since forever.
And be sure to give yourself a big, sweaty pony boy kiss from me. Jerk. He will never let me forget my bachelorette party.
Joey the pony boy. Tony, I remember him. I bet I have a letter, too. Where do you think he'd hide one for me?
Bedroom.
Denise, Taylor's, my favorite pub.
There's beautiful music to be heard,
beautiful people to be around. And Denise, you're going to heaven for being my baby's friend. I'm making all the arrangements up here for you. Got a few hot men lined up. I hear Ben Franklin's hung like a racehorse. Love you. I don't know how you do this. Let me see. What?
He didn't leave me a letter.
Well, probably didn't love you as much as us.
Well, P.S. I Love You opens in Irish cinemas this week and all over the world as well, as far as I understand, starring Hilary Swank, Lisa Kudrow and Kathy Bates. It premieres on the red carpet in Dublin tomorrow night. And, of course, if you want to read the original, the book itself, that's there along with all the rest of them in all good bookstores.
Gerry